For centuries, the story of Oak Island, a small, unassuming landmass off the coast of Nova Scotia, has been anchored in a specific period of history. The accepted narrative, the one passed down through generations of treasure hunters and historians, begins in the summer of 1795. It was then that a young man named Daniel McGuinness reportedly stumbled upon a peculiar circular depression in the ground, shaded by an old oak tree whose branches bore the scars of a block and tackle. This was the genesis of the legend, the starting point of a timeline we thought we understood. What followed was the excavation of the fabled money pit, a maddeningly complex shaft layered with platforms of oak logs every 10 feet. It was a feat of engineering that seemed to defy a simple explanation. And as diggers pushed deeper, they triggered the island's most infamous defense, a series of expertly designed flood tunnels channeling the relentless Atlantic into the pit, thwarting any attempt to reach what lay at the bottom. The sheer complexity of this structure suggested a well-funded, highly organized group was responsible. But who? Over the years, a cast of usual suspects emerged, each theory adding another layer to the island's mystique. The most romantic and enduring explanation pointed to pirates. Figures like the notorious Captain Kidd or the fearsome Blackbeard, who plundered the high seas during the golden age of piracy. It was believed they needed a secure, secret location to bury their ill-gotten gains, and the ingenious money pit was their ultimate bank vault. A more pragmatic theory suggested a military origin. With the major British naval base of Halifax nearby, some researchers proposed that the pit was constructed by British Royal Engineers. Perhaps it was a secret vault to hide a military payroll or treasury funds during times of war, like the American Revolution or the 7 Years' War. This theory accounted for the engineering prowess, but lacked the allure of pirate gold. And then there are the more esoteric theories, stretching the timeline further back. Chief among them are the Knights Templar. The legend tells of the warrior monks fleeing persecution in Europe in the 14th century, escaping with their legendary treasure and sacred relics, perhaps even the Holy Grail itself. Proponents of this theory suggest they journeyed across the Atlantic centuries before Columbus and chose Oak Island as the final resting place for their sacred charge. Pirates, British privateers, the Knights Templar. These have been the players, their stories confined to a historical window that begins, at its earliest, in the late Middle Ages. We thought we knew the timeline. We thought we understood the boundaries of the mystery. But this accepted history, built on centuries of speculation and frustratingly inconclusive digs, is predicated on one fundamental assumption: that the story is a post-Columbian one, that the secret of Oak Island belongs to the world after 1492. We were wrong. The history we have accepted for over 200 years is about to be shattered by a single small object that suggests a much older and far more revolutionary story. The story of this object begins not with a flash of gold, but with the slow, methodical work of excavation in one of Oak Island's most enigmatic locations, the swamp. For years, this waterlogged basin has been a focal point of the search, believed by some to be an artificial structure, a place where the island's greatest secrets may have been deliberately submerged. The process is painstaking. Each layer of soil removed is a journey back in time, but it is a journey through a landscape disturbed and redisturbed by centuries of searching. Below the surface lies a chaotic stratigraphy, a jumble of 19th-century timbers, Victorian-era tools, and the debris of countless failed expeditions. This is what we mean by layers of documented history. It is a contaminated archaeological record where any discovery must be treated with the utmost caution. It was deep within this challenging context, beneath the well-documented strata of the treasure hunt itself, that the team made their find. At first, it was just another metallic signature on the detector, another signal to be investigated. But as the dense, peaty soil was carefully brushed away, it became immediately clear that this was no ordinary find. It was a small, coin-like object, but its appearance was jarringly out of place. This was an artifact that, according to the established historical record of Nova Scotia, simply shouldn't exist here. The mind races to familiar narratives. Could this be the fabled treasure? The immediate assumption for many on Oak Island is pirate gold, but a quick examination ruled that out. The object's weight, its metallic luster, or lack thereof, and its crude, irregular shape did not align with a Spanish doubloon or any known currency from the golden age of piracy. It wasn't gold from a pirate ship. The next logical leap for many theorists would be the Knights Templar, the mysterious order often linked to the island's legend. But the markings on its surface bore no resemblance to the iconic symbols of the Templars or other medieval chivalric orders. There was no familiar cross, no religious iconography that could tie it to that popular yet unsubstantiated theory. It wasn't a Templar cross. With the most common theories quickly dismissed, the team was left with a profound mystery. The object's heavy corrosion, the deep patina that spoke of immense time, and the strange, almost alien markings suggested a far greater antiquity. This was not an artifact from the 18th, 17th, or even the 15th century. The evidence, preliminary as it was, pointed to an origin that predated not only the search for treasure on Oak Island, but the European discovery of the Americas itself. It was something far older. An object like this, if its provenance could be verified, would not just rewrite the story of Oak Island. It would challenge the very foundations of pre-Columbian history. The presence of a potentially ancient Old World artifact in a North American swamp is a claim that borders on the fantastical. It represents a paradigm shift, a discovery that seems, by all conventional understanding, to be utterly impossible. In the quiet of the laboratory, away from the windswept shores of Oak Island, the object undergoes its first true test. Under magnification, its story begins to emerge, not in clear sentences, but in whispers of metal and time. The initial assessment is immediate and startling. The object's characteristics, its apparent composition, its style, its sheer degradation, do not align with the typical artifacts unearthed from the island's colonial past. The usual suspects, Spanish maravedis, French coins from Louisbourg, or British coppers, are quickly ruled out. This feels different. It feels older. The analysis is meticulous. Every dimension is recorded, every gram weighed. The patina, that thin green or brown film that forms on ancient bronze or copper, is examined not just for its colour, but for its chemical composition and crystalline structure. A genuine, centuries-old patina develops in distinct layers and is incredibly difficult to fake. The surface tells a tale of a long, slow conversation with the earth, but the most tantalizing clues lie on its face, obscured by 2 millennia of silence. Through advanced imaging techniques, faint impressions begin to resolve. A profile, facing right. The strong nose and defined jawline are suggestive of portraiture from the Roman Republic or early Empire. On the reverse, what might be the remnants of Latin script, or perhaps the outline of a galley, a common motif on Carthaginian and Roman currency. When compared to authenticated coins from the period, the similarities are difficult to ignore. The hypothesis, once unthinkable, now becomes the central question of the investigation. Could this truly be an artifact of the ancient world? If this object is what it appears to be, it represents a leap not of years or even centuries, but of millennia. The established timeline of transatlantic contact is built upon a foundation of evidence beginning in the late 15th century. A verified Roman artifact found in its original North American context would not just add a new chapter to history. It would compel us to rewrite the entire book from the very first page. The implications are staggering. It would suggest that ancient mariners, whose seafaring capabilities have long been debated by historians, possessed the skill, the technology, and the sheer audacity to cross the vast, unforgiving Atlantic. It would mean that sailors from Rome, or perhaps their great rivals Carthage, set foot in the New World more than 1,500 years before Columbus. This single, corroded piece of metal doesn't just challenge the Oak Island treasure hunt. It challenges our fundamental understanding of the ancient world and its boundaries. The question is no longer just what is buried on Oak Island, but who was here and when? The 2,000-year leap is a dizzying prospect, and the burden of proof is extraordinary. Oak Island isn't just a colonial mystery, it's an ancient one. The history has been pushed back 2,000 years. The island's true purpose, its original architects, are far older and far more mysterious than we ever imagined. Please subscribe to our channel, History Documentary Hub, for more insightful videos and intriguing content.